Hey everyone, Dan Anchetta here with Darren Blonsky, and our guest today is Dan Weir from Froggy 92.9. He is a well-known radio host here in Sonoma County, and he is super involved in the local community, especially in times of crisis. I know that Dan is super involved going out there during the recent fires, and wanted to get his perspective on what's going on in the world as he sees it and who he talks to in the community. So hey, Dan, thanks for joining us.
Getting my camera set up.
My camera's just like pitiful today, so Dan, no worries.
You're both looking fantastic.
Fantastic. I did the hair for you, Dan.
Good. So, dude, tell us what's going on. You're talking to people all the time. What are you seeing in this world right now with coronavirus and with the people that you run into and the community members that you're interacting with? What do you see?
So as you said, I work for Froggy 92.9, which is the country radio station in town, and I'm the afternoon personality. I'm also really involved with digital for the station and for the whole company, which is Amaturo Sonoma Media Group. So I'm in kind of a unique position in that I have both a foot in the business community, in that I see how a lot of our partners and a lot of business people that I know personally are reacting to this. And then I also have from the DJ side, the personality side, the connection with the listeners. So yeah, I am sort of seeing, I guess, a unique perspective on some of this. But what I'm seeing is just a shift, everything just a little bit to the left. I'm seeing that 10% that everybody was making on whatever it is they were making on, and it's just shifting to not that. But then in some cases, I'm seeing, expenses also being decreased. People are able to make cuts in their lives where they need to. Of a small personal example, my son needs speech therapy for a language challenge that he has. I just found out today from Kaiser that whereas usually I have a $65 copay per session for that, they're covering the whole session as long as teletherapy. So yeah, I have no idea why they're doing that, but that's for me a savings that normally would be $240 a month. So seeing that kind of stuff. Can you give me 1 second?
That's the life of COVID-19 right there.
That's it right there. Everyone's.
Give me a second. My kid is about to kill my other kid.
Yeah, we're working.
Take care of this for a minute.
Or
the dog is knocking at the door or barking.
Exactly.
Could you? Just like 10 minutes. Thank you.
Totally. Perfect. He's back. So, what else? So you're like the nonprofit world. I know that during the fires you were coordinating and helping arrange people to get donations where they need to go. What are you seeing? Is that happening? Who's doing what? What good work is being done out there?
I think that's what's odd about this whole thing is that there's all of our usual go-to mechanisms to help people are kind of off the table if you're really going to abide by the rules of COVID. Right. I mean, I've had all of my t-shirt people reach out. I've had all of the food people reach out. I've had, usually all of the things that we do to get together and try to help and be, Sonoma strong are kind of, you can still do them, but if you're really trying to socially distance, if you're really trying to quarantine, shelter in place, you really shouldn't be. It's such a strange problem. And the only way to help is to do nothing. And that is not something I think a lot of people are comfortable with. And it's not something we're used to doing. So what are people doing to help? Some people are being generous. I think on the big level, you're seeing a lot of celebrities with generosity, which is great. You see people, I think it's cool to see, you've heard of a lot of distilleries flipping around and making hand sanitizer, which is pretty cool. So you see people, taking their skill sets and, applying them in ways that maybe they hadn't thought of at first, which are cool. Or you've got people who are sewing masks and things like that.
Right.
But it certainly is all of our go-to tools that we usually do to help, those, and I'm sure you'd be seeing it back east. The people dealing with hurricanes have their list of things that they do to help each other. Nashville had just had a tornado just, maybe a week and a half before all this really took effect. They were doing everything they need to do to try to clean up after that tornado. And, and it's just like, then this happens. So.
Can you speak about like the resiliency of the community? I feel like, we're personal friends. Like we've been friends forever. And I know that you're involved in a ton of the recovery effort after the fires and just, I know that you have your finger on the pulse of a lot of movements that are happening in the community. And can you just talk about like the resiliency that you see in our community and what you think it's going to look like a year from now, if and when there is a vaccine or whatever else happens, and we're going to go back to life as normal or back to business as usual. What do you think that looks like in Sonoma County?
Yeah, it's hard to imagine right now. I mean, I'm sure you guys are saying this from the business perspective too. What do I think it's going to look like? I think strangely, I think the fires really did prepare Sonoma County, of all places, for this, maybe the most, because it's funny, when you're in a problem like this, it feels like there's no escape and it's just constant. It's just every day. And what's the latest? And you just can't get out of this. And the three of us on this call remember what that was like during Kincaid and remember what that was like during Tubbs. I couldn't even tell you the day that the Tubbs fire went out, but I could tell you that it felt like forever that the Tubbs fire was burning. And it was, when we were in it, it felt like it would never end. So right now, what it feels like as soon as this is done, it's going to be a wasteland and you're going to walk outside of your house and all the restaurants are going to be gone. And, it's going to be it's just nothing. But, what it's really going to be, there's going to be some hardship that you're going to see. There's going to be businesses that you loved. I know Bistro 29 was a loved restaurant in Santa Rosa that closed. This
closed for good. They didn't just shut down for a little while. They're done, huh?
Yes. That's what I saw.
Three Twins ice cream gone.
Three Twins ice cream. There's Darren and I are big fans of financial guru Dave Ramsey, and he has a phrase he says all the time, which is that when the tide goes out, you see who's skinny dipping. So this is that instance where you're seeing a stress test for a lot of businesses that were maybe skating, maybe looking for cash infusion, maybe thinking about selling. Berkeley Farms has been looking for a buyer for a while, and they were kind of hoping to get one. And then, there's no chance you're going to get a buyer in this climate. So they just decided to shut down. So maybe you'll see some of those brands revived. You might see Three Twins revived. They've talked about that. I mean, the world freaked out when Twinkies died a few years ago, and then, they're back on store shelves when somebody buys the property, the intellectual rights. So it's, I think when we come out of this, it feels right now like it's going to be a wasteland, but I think 3, 4, 5 years, you're going to see it bounce back just like you did after 2008.
Yeah, I think the restaurant thing is going to be interesting. I know that a lot of restaurants are pivoting to do curbside and to do, to-go beverages and all sorts of different solutions to keep some type of income going. And the ones I've talked to are like the cook, the owner, and that's pretty much it. That's still on board, and they're just serving themselves, and they're taking orders themselves. They're washing dishes. They're doing everything they can do to keep the doors open and to make as much money as possible. So I just wonder what that, like you said, like who's going to be caught skinny dipping at the end of this, and what remains, and what that does to downtown occupancies in Petaluma and Santa Rosa. And, I think there's a big trickle down from there, but I guess, and also that there's opportunity. So it'll be interesting to see what comes new and is revitalized, and who doesn't make it. It's going to be, an unfortunate reality that there's going to be businesses that we're going to lose, probably beloved brands and restaurants and locations, and it's really unfortunate.
Mere Jack for a sec. Dan, I'm curious, how's listenership changed since this whole crisis? I mean, a lot of people, I assume, listen to the radio in the car or driving to work. Have you seen a change in listenership?
Definitely. The commute has completely changed. So, whereas you're stuck in your car, you listen to the radio. Well, now you're not stuck in your car. So how does that mean, what does that mean for us? It's, again, just kind of a shift. So we just happenstance. We launched the app. The station now, Froggy 92.9, has an app. And it's the easiest way. You could always stream our station from your smartphone. You could always stream it from any, smart device, Alexa, all that stuff. But the app is the easiest way to stream it. We can send out push notifications. You can download it now in the Apple App Store or Google Play. But it just happened to come out in March. And so all of a sudden we're seeing our streaming grow by 60%.
Wow.
And part of it is we got a new app, but part of that's because people aren't in the car, so they're listening on their phone. It's easier to listen on their phone because they maybe don't have an FM radio in their house. So again, just shifting. We're seeing our social media activity is up. And this is especially true. Our particular company, Sonoma Media Group, owns 5 radio stations, and our new station, KSRO, has been seeing wild growth on some of its digital properties, streaming, the website, stuff like that. Even more so than we had during Kincaid. So there's definitely appetite and interest in what's going on in this story, and people are, shoving it through their phone rather than maybe through the car speakers and the antenna on their car.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Look at that right there.
He's got the app. He's making it happen.
The app. Just as a side note, Dan, that hat in back of me up there, that cowboy hat, that's a signed, authentic Mark Chestnut hat when I went to his concert back in the day in Petaluma.
Wow.
Still sound pretty pro, man.
Going through the big P, I don't mean Petaluma.
Big.
Too funny. Well, Dan, anything that you want to leave us with? Any pearls of wisdom, thoughts? What's on your mind?
What's on my mind is just keeping your confidence up, keeping your strength up, and remembering that the marathon does eventually end. I was talking to my wife yesterday, and we were talking about how, it's kind of nice because you're at home more, and, you get to see the kids more, and, that's great. But then the way that you're seeing the kids is like, it's stressful, and you're still working on top of all the stuff you're trying to do with them. And it's all happening at once, and you don't want it all to be happening once. And then it's all happening at once for a long time, like 4 or 5 weeks. And I said to her, I said, I love Disneyland. I love Splash Mountain. I would not love to go on Splash Mountain 24 hours a day for 7 weeks. I just wouldn't. So, there is
characters dancing around while you're
there's a breaking point for anything that you love. And I think people are finding it. So I guess my parting words is that I hope everybody stays strong, and I hope that everybody is able to focus on and do the things that you can do for your mental health. And that's especially for parents, because parents are losing it right now. I talk to some people I know who are not parents, and they're like, oh God, what am I going to do with all this time? I see polls online. It's like, what are you doing with your free time? It's like,
I talked to someone the other day that said they were bored, and I was like, what's that like?
Yeah,
what's that
right.
like? Oh man.
So those are my parting words.
Right on. Well, man, thanks so much for your time. Thanks for coming on, and we'll post it sometime soon.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks.
See ya.
Good luck.